Oh, and we're live. The intro got jumped off. So, how are we doing, everybody? Good morning. It's Wednesday morning, 11 a.m. We're here with Todd Adwar, the Adwar team, and Cross County Mortgage. And today we have a very special topic. Why don't you introduce the topic, Todd?
Yeah, hey Tim, and welcome everybody to Mortgage Matters, the Adwar team. And before we get started, Tim, I just want to give the weekly update as to what's going on
Yes.
with the real estate community. So rates for the week, the 30-year conventional is now 7.16. The 15-year conventional is 6.61. For those of you looking to save a little money and not putting down a lot of money, FHA rates are better, 6.63 for 30-year fixed on an FHA. And jumbo rates are still 7.36, so a little bit high. I've been reading a lot and I've been seeing a lot of things about what has happened in the real estate industry and to our homes in the last 4 years. So let's talk about that. Tim, can you bring up that chart, please?
Yeah, sure. Here we go.
So this is a chart, obviously, of the United States and price appreciation. So let's talk about that. If you purchased a home anywhere in the country in the first quarter of 2020, let's say January of 2020, you became a homeowner. And now let's look at what that home might be worth. So in 2024, as I go around the country, Florida, your home would have gone up by 67%. So let's just take a home. We'll call it $300,000. You bought a home for $300,000 in January of 2020.
Can you click on the Florida again? Because I was seeing the stats before, but I don't see
Yeah,
it now.
no, it's not coming up, but I'll just run it. I'll just run
Okay,
it.
sure.
So your home, on average, in 42 of the 50 states, Tim, you would have made over 40% on your home. So that $300,000 home now in first quarter right now today would have been worth 420,000 or more.
Right.
Or more, because in Florida it went up by 67%. So that's an increase of 10% a year, and you're doing better in nothing than your home. So 42 states had 40% or better profits. 8 states were a little bit less than that. The lowest was Louisiana, which came in at 23%. But still, that $300,000 house would have been worth close to 370, so pretty good. And when you get into Florida at 67%, that 300,000 would be worth close to $500,000, and that's a lot of money. $200,000 in profit, really, for doing nothing. Let's get into the next topic, Tim. And the next topic I want to talk about is equity. So right now in the United States, we have about $17 trillion in equity in our homes. 17 trillion, a new record. We've never had this much equity in our homes ever. In fact, it's up 9.6% or $1.5 trillion year over year. So as a country, our homes are worth 1.5 trillion more than they were last January, only last January. And last January, if you remember, Tim, values are coming down.
Yeah.
This is the end of the world. Rates are at 8%. All of this stuff was coming around,
Right.
and still you made 10% on your house.
Right.
Additionally. So that brings us to the next topic. If all of this good news is going on out there and people are creating huge amounts of wealth because they're homeowners, why is it that only 14% of the people, Tim, say that it's a good time to buy in the United States? So according to Fannie Mae's survey on homeowner sentiment, only 14% of the people in the U.S. think it's a good time to buy a home. But we just went over, you would have made 40% on your home. Now, let me tell you why. So people concentrate on the negatives. They don't know how to buy a home. They don't know how to make it happen. And they're frustrated by what they see on television. They're frustrated when they talk to somebody about how much their mortgage payment might be. They're frustrated about a lot of things. but that couldn't be further from the truth. Let's talk about why it's a good time to buy. So we talked about how much equity, how much money everybody made. But if you're on the outside looking in, you're feeling bad. So if you don't own NVIDIA stock right now, you're like, oh my God, how could I not have purchased NVIDIA stock? I could have bought it 2 years ago and made 1,000% on my money and maybe retired.
Right.
But if you're thinking about buying it today, you sort of have that feeling, you know what I'm talking about? That I missed the boat, and that's a lot of the feeling for the people with real estate. But guess what? Unlike NVIDIA stock, we live in our homes. Our families are raised in our homes. We enjoy our neighborhood. We're proud of our homes. So it's totally different than everything you're thinking about missing an opportunity. It's still an opportunity. So the first thing I wanted to talk about, now that we've gotten into some of the numbers, is, okay, how do we get out of our heads? How do we get out of our minds and actually move forward? Around the country, except for 1 or 2 states, listings are up. So what does that mean? Tim, you've been a realtor for a long time.
Yeah.
You know that if listings are up, it means that you can negotiate a better deal. And I'll give you an example. We talked about Florida being up 67%, but they're also up 70% in listings right now. So it sounds worse than it is. It just means that last year at this time, there were no listings.
Right.
Now there's getting to be a reasonable amount of listings in the Florida area, so you can negotiate better. So I think, and from what I hear from people and what I read, I think that when they hear what the payment's going to be on a home, they think, oh my God, I can't afford that. I can't afford that. But you know what? Year over year, I saw something where I think it wasn't year over year, it was over the last few years. Rents are up 25% around the country.
Yes.
So your rent's not getting cheaper. So the fact that your mortgage payment's higher for now, they go hand in hand. So the rents are not getting cheaper. So here's what you can do with the fact that there are more listings around the country. There are something called a buy down, Tim. And what people do, smart people, first-time home buyers do, is they come in and they say, yeah, I know rates are around 7%, but I could start out for my first year at 4%. My second year, at 5%, my third year at 6%. And then after that, year 4 through, 30, if the rates haven't gotten lower, I'll be at 7%. Now, hopefully our income's going up. Hopefully the young couples, they're going to make more money, or young people, they're going to make more money over time. The first-time home buyers. But we get the seller. We negotiate with the seller. Hey, we'd like you to buy down our interest rate. We'd like to do that. We'd like you to buy down our rate. And the seller buys down the rate. It's called a seller's concession. They buy down our rate. And now, instead of maybe on a $420,000 house, now instead of, a $3,000 principal and interest payment, now we're getting it down to under $2,000. And yes, it's going to go up, but it's going to graduate in steps. And when it graduates in steps, it doesn't hurt as much. We can plan for it. We can prepare for it. There's a lot of things that we can do. So that's one thing that we should be doing as buyers when we're making offers. Talk to the sellers and say, hey, I want to buy your house, but I want you to buy down my rate.
Right.
And
now that's a quick question about that. Is it normally a yearly step up program, or is this different than an adjustable rate, which will adjust after 5 years?
It's safer than an adjustable rate. You certainly can get into an adjustable rate. We like those now as well. But if you don't get into adjustable and it's a little too risky for you, it's a step up program that's guaranteed. You know exactly where your payment's going to be in the first year, exactly where it's going to be in the second, third, and then 4 through 30. You never have to worry about it. And so if the rates
generally 1, 2, 3, and then you're
Right.
you're
Well,
set.
normally it's 1 and 2. Normally it would be 5, 6, 7. But now
Okay.
with there being more listings, I think you can negotiate for even more with the seller to 4, 5, 6, 7.
Okay.
So 3 good years. And if the rates come down like we're expecting, you won.
Right.
You won big. You got into the house. You could afford the payment. You got used to the payment. Because a
Mhm.
lot of making a payment, Tim, is getting used to it.
Right. Sure.
You know, okay, so we're not doing this, we're not doing that. It really is getting used to it. The second thing that we see that people should start considering is to cover your taxes, to cover your
Mhm.
insurance, to cover a bunch of different items. Look at homes with additional dwelling units in it. What does that mean? What does
Yeah.
an additional dwelling unit mean?
That's how I
Additional,
started.
yeah, yeah. So an additional dwelling unit is not necessarily a 2 or a 3 or a 4 family, which
Mhm.
those are going off the shelves, and everybody's like, I need all those rentals
Yeah.
to buy a house. People are renting out their basements. People are
Mhm.
renting out, they're dividing their houses up. They're renting, they put in a separate entrance, and they're cutting their houses and putting in other units. Not only will it cover some of your mortgage payment, but it means that you qualify for more if the home has it. And in
Right.
order for it to be an additional dwelling unit, you need a kitchen in the unit, and
Mhm.
you need a shower and a bathroom in the
Sure.
additional unit, which makes sense. I mean, you can't rent
Yeah.
out
Yeah.
add something if you can't shower and you can't cook. So those are all things that you got to be thinking to yourself, okay, it's time to get out of my chair. It's time to start looking, and it's time to start getting in. Now, we had some good news today. The numbers I gave at the beginning were from yesterday or earlier in the week. We had some good news on rates. I think the rates are going to be, back in the sixes,
Mhm.
by maybe even the end of today.
Right.
And that's good news for all the buyers. But the lower it goes, the more that inventory is going to start to get eaten up by all of the millions of people sitting on the sidelines. So
Right.
really, really cool. I think.
Yeah, there's a lot of pent up demand. You can see that. I've had buyers that have lost out in bidding wars, and I wish I had the Angel AI working in my favor, but I didn't get started on that soon enough,
Right.
which is a great thing. Are you doing a special presentation on that soon?
Yeah, we're
June
gonna do
20th?
that in a couple of weeks. We have the folks from Angel AI that are going to join us and talk about how this helps everybody,
Yeah.
become a homeowner. So, so when I'm looking around, I did an event last night. We did a networking event for investors.
Right.
I met a relatively young guy, early 30s. Him and his partner started 6, 7 years ago,
Hmm.
and they now own 600 units
Wow.
in apartment buildings in the
Huh.
Southeast, and they're doing great. One of the speakers I had yesterday, Jacques Barranco, does gap funding. What gap funding
Right.
is borrowing your down payment and closing costs for investment properties. And for you investors out there, for you folks who are thinking about becoming investors, and you think now is a good time for that, you could become an investor with only 15% out of pocket.
Hmm.
So you can now do, as long as the rent covers the mortgage payment, you can become an investor. You need a 700 FICO score. The rent covers the mortgage, 15% out of pocket. Bing bang boom, you qualify. It's that easy, folks. The one thing that I can say to everybody is, I bought my first house, and I bought it for $160,000, which at the time was a
Hmm.
lot of money. I paid 11%. I had 3 points that I paid,
Hmm.
and at the time, because rates were coming down, I was thrilled. In fact, I bragged. If you can imagine, I bragged that I got 11%. And with rates tomorrow in the high sixes, I look at it and I say to myself, you know, they're really not bad. And
Right.
as they come down, the market's going to fly. The market's going to fly. Lower rates will mean not a 40% increase. Next year, we'll be sitting here and talking about it, the average being 60%. It'll
Right.
be a monster year for folks. So it's time right now, guys. It's time right now to take advantage of more listings. And I don't think the word's out there yet, Tim. I think that
Right.
people are sitting. There's definitely some movement, but I think that a lot of people are sitting on the sidelines. What are you seeing out there?
I see the same thing. Inventory being drastically low is a problem, is an issue. I called it the other day. We were having a conversation that the people seem to have golden handcuffs. They don't want to lose that 3% loan that they've gone into, and so they're just sitting where they are and they're not moving and they're not going to do it, which causes all the problem. It causes the price increase because the demand is so high on so few listings. But that seems to be people getting creative and people coming out of their shell to move out of that house, even though they have such great rates or their life just calls for them to move on. They have to move. And moving would make more sense than
Right.
being locked down where they are.
Right.
So yes, the inventory is loosening up to normalized levels. You've given numbers which make people go, oh, it's crashing. It's not crashing. We're coming back to a normal market.
Oh,
And
we're so far from from crashing.
oh
It's
yeah, I mean that's the thing. I mean, when you say numbers like, oh, we're up 45% in listing numbers, that's okay because we were recklessly low in listing numbers in the amount of inventory listings that we needed.
it's a
So
it's a possibility. I had a client say it best to me about a year ago.
hmm,
They said when my wife and I went shopping for a home, we thought we were going into a supermarket
yeah,
and buying a loaf of bread.
right,
And you just say, well, this loaf of bread is $4. This is $3.90. This is $4.20. But you know what? I want raisins in my bread, so I'll pay $4.50.
yeah,
Okay. And then they found out that there were only a few loaves of bread on the at the aisles, and everybody wanted to eat that day.
that's it.
So that's the biggest thing that people don't realize when entering the market for the first time. But there are some smart people out there who are doing what what others aren't, and they're jumping in on opportunities, and they're looking back and say, "Wow, I bought." Whether it's through that investor program that I just spoke about,
Right.
or what have you, and they're going in and they're buying home after home after home, and they look the next year and they're like, "Okay, my homes are worth X amount more," and they're okay
Yeah.
as long as the rent's covering the mortgage. They're
Right.
okay with taking that leap and saying, okay, next year when I refinance, or 2 years when I refinance, the rents are going up. My rent's going to be more than covering my mortgage.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we'll see.
Yeah. The thing is that, like I was saying, people are in their houses at good mortgages, don't feel forced to move. This is completely different than in '08, where everyone was getting money and the financials were changing. The banking industry was changing. Everything else is in a very solid place, and we're not poised for some collapse like we had in '08. There, that's not the market correction that's coming. We need to
So,
normalize, and then people can move about wherever they need to be and whatever their lifestyle calls for. And that it shouldn't cause for alarm that people, oh, the market has to come down, it has to crash. Nothing goes up forever. We're in for a soft landing because so many
very,
people are in great positions in their houses. So
right.
there's not going to be a sell off like, everything's ruined, and then people are picking stuff up off the floor. I just don't see that happening at all.
I see.
So
You're right. So instead of moving, people are getting second mortgages and
mhm,
doing construction to their home. They
right.
they live in a 3 bedroom, but they need 4 bedrooms, and
Hmm.
they're doing construction. They're borrowing from the equity, which,
Right.
folks, you have nothing to do with your equity going up. It's just you were in your home
Right.
and it went up for everybody in the neighborhood. It means you're smart to be a homeowner, but it means we didn't do anything. I had nothing to do with the equity going up in my
Right.
home.
Right.
So people are borrowing money. But here's what happens, interestingly enough. They have that 2%, $200,000 second mortgage, first mortgage. And then they get a $120,000 mortgage at 8%.
Right.
And all of a sudden, they're looking and they're like, well, you know what? I'm really at 5% when I average the two. And then they wake up one day and they say, you know what? I could buy that house. As long as you're not taking the equity out of your home and buying a new car or going on vacation or what have you, if you're being responsible with that money,
right,
you're going to do great. Look, we all have college to pay for and things like that there's no way around. And that happens, but those are things, event things that come along that we have to pay for. And it's certainly a good way to use our house. People are definitely doing that.
Yeah.
All right, so next week. Yeah. So next week, Tim, we're going to be talking to a reverse specialist, Michael O'Connor. And Michael's going to be talking about, for seniors, buying their home with a reverse purchase, which people don't really do. They have all this money, all this equity. They're going to buy a new home. And what does that mean? That just means that they're not going to have a payment going forward. And for you seniors who are living on fixed income, cut it out. Don't tell me that you want to leave all this money to your kids. Live your life. Your kids want you to live your life. Do a reverse mortgage, have no payment for the rest of your life. And now you have more cash flow to live the rest of your life. You could even get money every month and contact me, or, Michael will be here next week. We'll talk about that. So a lot of good things coming up on the show. We look forward to it. And I think that's it for today.
Very good. Well, I'll just remind everybody, I had the banner up. Please like, share, and subscribe. Michael's looking for more subscribers to the channels. We have Facebook and YouTube and a Twitter going on as well. We're broadcasting too. So please, and of course, remind everybody that they can always ask their questions live and reach out to Todd. All his contact information was up before, but there it is again. So please do that. And we're live every Wednesday morning at 11 a.m. Sound good?
Great.
All right, then I'll play us out and we'll see you all next week.
Okay. Bye-bye.